Hello, I have here the LEGO Atari 2600, or more properly, the VCS, or Video Computer System. I bought this set for $240 US and built the whole thing live over on my Twitch channel, where in a typical month these days I do about 120 hours of live streaming of mostly LEGO and also some of these Gundam mech models you see in the background. This set has 2,532 pieces with the console, joystick, 3 cartridges in a little organizer, and then 3 separate made-up side builds. The console, joystick, and cartridges themselves are all very, very close to 1-to-1 scale to the original VCS. The build for the console felt right for a mass collector market product, by which I mean something that needs to look right. It needs to look good, but that is very likely to be purchased by a first-time LEGO buyer or by somebody who's just coming out of their dark ages for the first time to get back into LEGO, after having not played with it since a kid. This looks good from every angle. It does not have any camera unfriendly angles, and everything that you're looking at here in terms of decoration is done with either genuine building techniques, just the plastic pieces, or prints, no stickers here. So the Atari logo here is done with 2 pieces, and then the suggestion of wood grain texture across the front is stacks of plates and tiles up on top. Dark orange is the main color there, and then the alternate color is dark brown. The top plate has a fair amount of repetition, both on the top layer and below this, but it goes together fairly quickly, and it hides something fairly significant that we'll look at in a minute. The front panel has a nice orange surround that sticks out and is bright, but not too bright. These switches obviously represent the 1980 to 1982, if research did not fail me on that version of the Atari VCS before they renamed it to 2600, and these switches can be flipped up and down. It's fairly satisfying. It feels pretty decent inside of there. Needs to have a little bit more tension to be accurate, but it's pretty close. And then you've got some nice tension here as well. These will spring back. That feels pretty good. The cartridge insert receptacle right there, I think needs to be a little bit deeper, but you are able to connect a cartridge. We'll look at the cartridges themselves a little bit later on. Got to line it up right, but you're able to connect the cartridge in there, and it's going to stay. I just think it should go in a little bit farther. The rear panel is pretty accurate, but you can see with the glare here that some of these pieces aren't molded exactly perfectly. They shrunk a little bit when they come out, but you've got the 2 joystick ports here, power port in the middle, the 4-switch version, difficulty selectors on the back, which you can actually slide back and forth, and it's appropriately difficult to slide them back and forth. They're made with little tool pieces you have to slide into Technic bricks, and so there's a lot of force you have to put into that to make it work, which is just, I don't know if they intended that, but it's very accurate. And then this is the channel selector over here and a small port to connect it to the to your TV, but there's nothing that will actually go with this because, well, no TV is included. But now check this out. This represents an early 80s kids' room, complete with accurate, ugly walls and very ugly carpeting there. Little kitten. This is not the regular size cat. It's the newer style of kitten in whites there. Got a phone up on the wall, a couple of roller skates down there in just a light gray color. New wave up here with the keytar dude with the keys actually corrected compared to the way that they're done on the CMF, the collectible minifigure series figure. TV up here that's playing a color version of Asteroids. I personally never played color Asteroids. I only ever played black and white Asteroids. This is shamefully. This represents the Atari system right here. The kid is definitely sitting way too far away from the screen to be accurate, so they're a little bit off there. Got some cartridges down on the ground. He's also got some soda and representations of some additional games and or movies and or Lego things. This represents Asteroids here, and that's definitely not Indiana Jones whatsoever. No, it's Johnny Thunder, of course. A couple of action figures back over here. I don't know what that specifically represents. The dark azure colored half arch piece or half rounded. I think they were thinking of something in particular. I just don't know what it is. VHS tape here in early 1980s. I'm not so sure about that. I mean, this does seem to be a well-to-do kid, from a well-to-do family, because look at all this room they got. And then the boombox back here as well. Interestingly, there's quite a bit of building that goes into that feature, not just for this, because there are quite a few pieces used for this, but the Technic mechanism to make that pop up automatically. And it does work very consistently. The only thing that I don't like about it, that I especially don't like about it, is that there's no lock. When it comes out, it kind of stays when it's on display this way, but when you push it in, there's nothing to keep it from sliding out. So when I move this around, it always wants to just fall. It's weird. The minifigure has dark brown colored mid-sized legs, very nice, and has an excellent small build, two-piece at that, for a joystick. It's pretty perfect. And then you got the exclusive torso there, obviously, which is very good, very collectible. The alternate color there is medium blue, something that they've been using less and less and less as they've leaned more on the azure side of the color scheme. But this just looks great to me. And the face, I think, is pretty appropriate. The hair is kind of cool. And there's alternate face as well, also pretty appropriate. I think, yeah, this is all good. The cartridge tower is probably smaller than any of these would have been back in those days. This is just right size for the number of cartridges included in this set. Most of them would have actually held more cartridges than this, but this is a pretty efficient build. It doesn't waste a lot of pieces, uses a small number of pieces, and even goes with larger parts where possible. I can see very clearly, though, from some angles that there are multiple colors. Sorry about the focus there, but there are multiple colors of brown here. I haven't seen that in a while to that degree, with brown in particular. That Lego is slipping once again, quality-wise. I mean, you can clearly see that there are different hues there. Like this right here is more yellowish. This right here is more reddish. This right here is more yellowish. This right here is the same piece is more reddish. It's not a good look for a premium product like this, I have to say. You probably want to be a little bit careful when putting these in or taking them out, because there is a little bit of gap on top to allow stickers to have clearance so that they don't scratch. But if you do put this in at an angle up, there's still a possibility that you could scratch some of those stickers. So make sure it's either angled down or perfectly straight. Just take your time, and these will last a long time. The cartridges themselves are absolutely excellent. They rely heavily upon stickers, but the original cartridges had stickers as well. I am fine with this because these are beautiful designs. They really put a lot of time into the artwork for these, making them fully Lego-ified. Look at that, fully Lego-ified. Well, maybe the legs and the antennae there aren't entirely Lego-ified, but it's pretty darn Lego-ified. They really did not just they did not cut any corners here. Definitely some time was put into that. Some heart, some love was put into that. The correct typefaces are used and everything. This one, I wasn't even a fan of Adventure myself, but this is probably my favorite of the three. It's just so well done with the classic dragon head there. It's pretty perfect. And these also have the sticker here, so when you place it in, you can see that properly. That's all good. And one thing that's not all good here is that I got some pieces that have mold marks on them. The ejection pin, they just stick out way too much. They're just, I don't know, just again, not the quality that I'm used to from Lego. I mean, a couple of these really stick out and almost need to be sanded down like I'm building a plastic model kit or something. Oh, and the connection side does have an indent with a little bit of green in there, but does not have a suggestion of the actual, PCBs and the actual connectors in there. Would have been nice to get just a little bit more, but I'm probably asking for too much at that point. It's so good. I just want it to be even better. The joystick is definitely one of my favorite things in this set because it's darn near perfect. This triggers all the nostalgia for me, all of it, and uses 4 printed pieces along the top. The build for this is excellent, and it actually has a mechanism. You can move the stick back and forth. There's a little bit of tension in there. It just uses rubber Technic bushings inside. It's a brilliant, but fairly simple design and engineering triumph, in my opinion. I wish that it was a little bit more stiff because these things were rather stiff. You cannot push the button down also, unfortunately. But I mean, this just, for something made of Lego, I could not possibly ask for it to even be this good. This is better than it needs to be. Got the long, flexible hydraulic pneumatic tube here in black, and that ends with an appropriately shaped connector with just a couple of studs there to connect into the ports in the back. You can even adjust the angle here ever so slightly. And then there are these side builds, which are cool and all, but in my opinion, did not need to be here and sort of just inflate to the price, or rather use up the excess budget that was available to the designer because the price is set before the thing is actually built. So, they did the tower for the cartridges and all of these with the extra set budget, as well as the interior after, doing the core stuff as well as reasonably possible. So got a little representation of the game of adventure, including the fire-breathing serpent or dragon there. Got the chalice down there. This is a sticker for the front. Got the slightly inclusion of a little bit of color, and also a reference to the very first ever known video game Easter egg, which was in this game. For asteroids, again, I only ever played black and white asteroids, so this just looks too colorful to me, but I like how they, they kind of went into the universe, made it three-dimensional, and it's fairly appropriate. Maybe just a little bit too nice. They probably take a little bit of inspiration from classic box art and cartridge art to come up with these things, which I respect, but I don't know, I almost feel like these are too nice. Like they're almost too high poly. I don't know, they don't quite land for me, but this is probably my favorite of them. It's just a good build, a good solid build for a centipede here. Very posable with all the Mixels ball joints, and a nice parts pack too to get all of those yellow colored curved horn pieces, which otherwise we wouldn't have that many of on the market. Got some mushrooms out here, and that's that. The leftover parts include some nice and/or rare and/or new colors for some useful pieces. And then there are 3 sticker sheets here, one for each cartridge, and also a little bit of extra stuff on the side for the interior details. So it looks like a lot, but I feel like this was appropriate for what we got. Now, what about price? Value. Once again, this was $240 US. It's 240 euros also. 210 British pounds, which is still within a very similar total actual price. That's a lot, of course. By now you know that I'm not super happy with Lego prices these days, but I am super happy with at least the core stuff that is here. Compare the price of this set to the closest analog, which is the NES system. Well, that one now, after adjustments, is $270 US. It costs $30 more. The NES console is smaller than this. I kind of like its Easter egg better than this one. Its internal thing, I think it just matches the theme better. But that also comes with a TV. And the TV isn't just a thing that sits there. It also has that entire mechanism on the inside, which adds a whole lot of additional value. And it's got the stand, it has the integration with the Mario weird figure thing, the electronic thing. I don't really consider that to be any memorable part of the value of the NES set. But here's the thing: the way that the Lego design process works is that first the price is set, and then the designer gets to work. So the designer came up with this, and it was perfect. And they did this. Then they needed to add more stuff. Probably did cartridges as well. Needed to add more stuff, so it did the interior. They did this scene, and might have made it a little bit nicer than it needed to be. A little bit more valuable, including the addition of a minifigure there, which is very nice. They added this thing to hold the cartridges, which is cool, which is convenient. It helps to keep all of those together and everything. And they still had budget left over. They couldn't just leave it on the table. It would have meant that we're still paying the $240. You just would have gotten less. So then the designer made this stuff. I personally don't feel like these add that much to this set, and I much would have preferred that the budget in the first place had been set lower to begin with. Just leave those out. I'd like to see this over here at like 180, 200 at the most today in 2022, where everything is super overpriced and this is a collectible thing and it's licensed and everything. Yeah, $200 is too much, but it's about what I would expect. Like to see maybe a little bit less than that, honestly. And this stuff over here just pads it up. because that's just part of the process. Really appreciate all of the prints on here, and the stickers don't bother me at all here. These seem to be all appropriate. What does bother me, however, more than anything, is the fact that specifically for this review and for a follow-up video that's going to come over on the main JANG Bricks channel after this review, after a while. Don't expect it immediately, but soon. I bought this. This is an actual Atari VCS, aka 2600, that works. Came with 2 of these and some games. I got it for $50 US. That was not a steal. That's a very normal price. As a matter of fact, you can definitely get them cheaper than that if you look around, but I wanted something that was nice and clean and looked really, really, really good. This one hasn't even lost any of the paint around the ring on the joystick. Yeah, it's the real deal. Now here you can see that there's a really good match between the Lego one and the real thing. So that's good. That's awesome. Much respect. Again, much respect. But this, this was $50 with games. $5 for an adapter, and it works on modern TVs. Easy. And you can play it forever. You can get lots more games for it. There's so much more value with the real thing. And not only that, one of the big cool things about this is the nostalgia factor. You can't get more nostalgia factor than getting the actual original real thing. The actual original real thing. It's not a replica. It's not a model. You can't surpass this. You can't surpass the feeling of this original joystick. There's only one original joystick. Maybe they can make something that feels just like it, but you know that this is the real thing. It's different. And I just can't see how anybody could want this for the nostalgia factor when they can get this. And it works today. And you can get tons and tons of games for it. Good and bad. You know? I can't make sense of that. So then comes the whole counter argument that always comes up. But JANG, the building experience. Yes, I do Lego a lot. I have done a lot of Lego in the past. I like the Lego building experience a lot. A lot. I have put my money where my mouth is repeatedly. But you build this once, you're not going to play with it. You're not going to do anything with it. It's just going to sit and collect dust. Every once in a while, somebody who hasn't visited you will come over and you'll be like, look. And they'll be like, oh, that's cool. And that's it. There's nothing more that you get out of this other than just being able to look at it on the shelf and be like, oh, that looks so cool. It looks just like the original thing. For that, I would much rather have this for a fifth the price or a quarter the price at most. And then be able to actually plug it into my TV and play the games. Sorry. It just doesn't make sense. If this had something to it on the level of what the NES set does, that would have added so much more to it. But it doesn't. It has these things. That's a $5, $10 at the most in 2022, 2023 thing. So, okay, $15 over here. Cool. So, an absolute masterpiece of design. Everything from the outside is better than I could possibly ask it to be. This is amazing. Everything here is good. This said enough about those. They're not bad. But the price, not outrageous by today's outrageous standards, but just get the real deal. That's all I got to say about it. So, thanks for watching. Bye for now.